You did not find this video tonight by wandering. Something in you, the part that is older than this frustration, older than this particular season of waiting, pulled you here at this exact hour. I do not say that as a pleasantry. I say it because I have watched this law operate for a very long time, and one of the things it does, consistently and without exception, is arrange the precise teaching at the precise moment the student is ready to receive it, not a day before, not a day after. I know what you have been carrying. I can see the specific weight of it. You have been wanting something, perhaps for a long time now, and you have been doing everything you know how to do. You have read the right things. You have tried the right practices. You have had days where the feeling was alive and real, and you thought, this time it is moving. And then the days passed, and the thing you wanted remained on the other side of an invisible wall you cannot find the door to. That is why you are here tonight. What I am going to give you is not another technique to add to your morning. It is not something you do at a desk or on a walk or with your eyes open in a room with the lights on. It is something that happens in a place you already visit every single night, a place where the law operates with absolute fidelity, and where, until now, you have been doing the one thing that seals the very door you have been trying to open. By the time you finish listening to me, you will understand exactly what to do tonight, and you will understand why everything you have been doing, however sincere, however disciplined, was working against the mechanism you needed to be working with. Stay with me. Here is what most of you have been doing. You have been trying very hard, and the trying is the problem. Not because effort is wrong in the world of physical action, but because in the world of consciousness, in the world where tomorrow is actually built, the feeling of trying is the feeling of not yet having. And the subconscious, which is the instrument through which all things are created in your life, does not hear your wishes. It records your assumptions. It reads the emotional state beneath the technique. And when you lie down at night, carrying the feeling of a person who is still reaching for something, the subconscious receives that as its instruction. It files it, and it constructs tomorrow from it. You have been working very hard all day, and then at night, when the body grows still and the critical mind begins to quiet, what is the last conversation you have with yourself? What is the feeling you carry across the threshold into sleep? I will tell you what it has been. For most people who come to a teaching like this one, it sounds like this. It has not come yet. What am I doing wrong? Maybe I am not doing it correctly. Maybe it does not work for me. Maybe there is something blocked in me that I do not understand. That conversation, wearing the costume of analysis, is what your subconscious has been receiving as its nightly instruction, not your morning visualizations, not your afternoon affirmations. The feeling you carry into sleep is the command that is actually obeyed. This is not a failure of faith. It is a misunderstanding of mechanics. And mechanics, once understood, all can be corrected tonight. I want to tell you about a night on West 72nd Street. This was 1933. Neville Goddard, the man whose writings brought most of you to this teaching, was not yet a teacher. He was a young man from Barbados who had come to New York to be a dancer. He had talent. He also had nothing in his pocket, a cold apartment, and a city around him that did not know his name. He came to my apartment one evening and told me he needed to go home. Not wanted, needed. He was homesick in the particular way an island person becomes homesick in a northern city in winter. He could feel Barbados, the specific quality of the air, the color of evening light there, the smell of the trees his family grew up around. And the distance from all of that was doing something to him that went deeper than sadness. He had looked into the cost of passage. He had no money for it. It was not by any external measure possible. I told him, "You are already in Barbados." He looked at me the way you may be looking at me now. He said, "Abdullah, I am standing in your apartment in New York City." I said, "That is what your senses report. But your senses are always behind the truth of consciousness. You are already in Barbados. Go home tonight and fall asleep as a man who is lying in Barbados, not traveling to Barbados, not hoping one day to return to Barbados, already there. The tropical air on your skin, the specific weight of it, the sounds that belong to that place, your people nearby. Sleep from inside that feeling." He went home. He lay down. And every night for weeks, he did not try to get to Barbados. He was already there. He felt it from within, not as a performance, not as a wish cast upward toward something he lacked, but as the simple, ordinary sensation of a man lying in a place he already was. 3 weeks later, a man Neville barely knew, not a close friend, not someone of obvious means, approached him and offered him a first-class ticket to Barbados that he could not use himself. Not a boat ticket in steerage, not a discounted passage arranged through some unlikely connection. First class. The mechanism was not prayer. It was not visualization in the way most people practice it, watching a mental film from the outside, hoping something responds. It was the specific feeling state in which Neville crossed the threshold of sleep night after night, until the subconscious had received enough of that impression to arrange the outer world in correspondence with it. This is not a story about miracles. It is a story about the mechanics of sleep, and those mechanics are available to you tonight. Here is the law as Neville came to understand it, and as I taught it to him. There is a state you pass through every single night. You pass through it without ceremony, without awareness of what it is, and without any understanding of what a privilege it represents. It is the threshold between waking and sleep, the hypnagogic state, the place where the body has grown heavy and the breath has slowed, and the critical faculty of the conscious mind has released its grip. That part of you that analyzes, doubts, compares, and argues with the evidence of your senses, it goes quiet. And in that quietness, the subconscious is completely, utterly open. Neville called it the state akin to sleep. I called it the door, and I told him every human being who has ever lived passes through this door every night. Most of them carry the wrong thing through it. Most people arrive at this threshold reviewing the day. They rehearse the moment at work that went wrong. They anticipate tomorrow's difficulty. They carry the newspaper of their circumstances into the most receptive moment of the human experience, and they hand it to the subconscious as the night's instruction. And the subconscious, which has no opinion about what it receives, which accepts without argument whatever is given to it with feeling, files it and builds from it, night after night. The technique I am about to give you is not complicated. It is, in fact, so simple that trained minds reject it. But here it is. Choose a scene, one scene, not a collection of images, not a highlight reel of your desired life. A single scene, quietly chosen, that implies your desire is already fulfilled. Not the moment of receiving it, the moment after, the ordinary, unremarkable moment of already having it. If what you desire is a relationship, do not imagine the dramatic first kiss. Imagine the ordinary Tuesday morning of a person who is already loved. The cup of tea or coffee shared in the morning without ceremony. The familiar weight of another person's presence nearby. The particular ease that belongs to someone for whom being loved is simply normal. If what you desire is financial freedom, do not imagine the dramatic moment of a check arriving or an account filling. Imagine the Saturday morning of a person who does not check their balance because they already know. The particular quality of quiet that belongs to a person who is not afraid. One scene, ordinary, the moment after. Now, and this is where almost everyone makes the critical error. You do not watch this scene from the outside. You do not sit behind your eyes and observe it as if it were a film you're watching on a screen. You step inside it. You feel the temperature of it, the sounds, the specific quality of ease in the body of the person you are in this scene, not the person hoping for it, the person for whom it is already done. And then, as the drowsiness comes, as the body grows heavy and the mind begins to float at the edge of sleep, you let that feeling be the last thing you feel, not as an effort, not as a performance, simply as the state you are in as sleep takes you. Here's something I need you to understand about effort. When Neville first came to me, he had more willpower than almost any student I had taught. He could concentrate. He could sustain a visualization, and nothing was moving. I watched him try harder each week, and I watched the law remain apparently silent, and I knew exactly what was happening. I told him, your effort is the signature of your doubt. When you already have something, you do not try to have it. You simply have it. The trying, the feeling of working toward something that is not yet here, is a feeling, and the subconscious records it as a fact. The fact that you do not yet have the thing you are working so hard to get. This is not a call to be passive in your life. It is a call to be a completely different kind of active. Not the activity of reaching outward toward something absent. The activity of inhabiting something already present in consciousness. Tonight, when you lie down and enter the scene I have described, notice what you feel. If it feels like effort, if it feels like work, like a practice you are performing correctly, like a technique you are executing with discipline, you have not yet found the state. Ease is the confirmation. The moment it feels natural rather than constructed. The moment it is as ordinary as the room you are physically lying in. That is when the impression is being made. That is when the subconscious receives it as a fact rather than a wish. I want to tell you something about timing, about when this work matters most. When Neville would come to me and describe his practice, I noticed that the students who made the most progress were not always the ones who spent the most hours in deliberate imagination during the day. Oh, they were the ones who had understood something about the threshold, the ones who treated the last 90 seconds before sleep as the most important 90 seconds of their entire day. I told Neville once, you can spend 2 hours in the afternoon in concentrated imaginal work. And in 90 seconds at the threshold of sleep, the quality of the feeling you carry in, the naturalness of the assumption you enter with, can either deepen everything you built in the afternoon or undo it entirely. He resisted that. He was a disciplined man. He said, "Abdullah, I am giving hours to this. You are telling me that 90 seconds matters more?" I told him, "I am telling you that 90 seconds in the right state, carrying the right assumption, is working at the level where the subconscious receives without resistance. Everything before that, the daytime practice, the deliberate imagination, the affirmations you have been speaking, all of it is preparation for that moment. It is planting seeds in hard soil. At the threshold of sleep, the soil becomes completely soft. What you plant there in that state with that feeling takes root in a way that nothing else can replicate. This is why I am not giving you a morning routine. I am giving you a bedtime law. Treat the last 90 seconds before sleep as the moment your entire day has been building toward. What you feel at that threshold is what gets built tomorrow, not the effort of your afternoon, the assumption of your final moment of consciousness. Before I give you the third thing I want you to understand tonight, I want to pause. If what I have been saying is landing for you, if you can feel the difference between what I am describing and what you have been doing, then I have something I want to give you. It is called the Manifest Reset. The channel has prepared it for the people who find this teaching at the right moment. It addresses 3 things specifically: how to choose and construct the single scene that will actually impress the subconscious, because most people choose scenes that are dramatic rather than ordinary, and dramatic scenes create effort rather than ease. Second, how to identify the feeling that signals genuine assumption rather than the performance of assumption, because the subconscious reads the difference every time. And third, and what to do on the nights when the doubt arrives before the drowsiness does, which is the night most people give up, and which is actually the night the law is closest to completing its work. These are the 3 places I watched students stall, not because the law failed them, because they did not know which part of the mechanism they were getting wrong. If you want it, comment the word reset below, not as a magic phrase, as a declaration of intention, as the act of a person who has decided they are done watching this teaching from the outside. Now, the third thing, you have been waiting for your desire to appear, but here is what the waiting has actually been. In consciousness, in the world where all things originate before they appear in the physical world, your desire already exists. It is not something that needs to be created. It is a state, a specific configuration of consciousness that already contains everything you are asking for. Neville wrote about this directly. He called it living in the end, not working toward the end, not imagining the end as a future event, but occupying the end as a present fact. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a distance in time. It is a distance between states. You are standing right now in the state of wanting, and just beside it, close enough to step into, is the state of having, the state in which the thing you desire is simply normal, the state in which the person you are is already the person who has it. Every student eventually asks me, "Abdullah, when will it come?" And every time I give the same answer: it is already here. You are simply standing in a room next to it, rehearsing the feeling of the wall between you night after night, at the most impressionable moment of the human experience. Neville used to ask his students a question that I gave him: "Are you sleeping as the person who has the thing or as the person who wants it? The distance between those two feelings is the only distance that matters, not the distance between your bank account and the number you desire, not the distance between your current circumstances and the circumstances you are imagining. The distance between the assumption you carry into sleep and the assumption that already contains everything you want. Change the assumption. Hold it at the threshold. Sleep from inside it. The outer world, every circumstance, every encounter, every opportunity that will appear in your life is always downstream of that inner act. It cannot be otherwise. This is not a philosophy. It is the operating principle of consciousness. Here is what you will do tonight. One thing, simply and completely. Wait until the first real wave of drowsiness comes. Not when you decide you should probably sleep, but when the body announces it on its own. When the breath slows without your instruction and the weight of the day has settled into the muscles and the mind begins to drift at its edges. That is when you begin. Choose your scene beforehand. Now, while you are alert, the ordinary, quiet, already done scene. One moment, the morning after, the afternoon of, the unremarkable Tuesday of a person for whom this is simply life. When the drowsiness comes, step inside it, not as a viewer, as the inhabitant. What is the temperature of the air around you in that scene? What sounds exist nearby? Not dramatic sounds, ordinary sounds. What does your body feel like as a person for whom this is already true? What is the quality of breath of someone who is not waiting for anything? Do not narrate it to yourself. Do not explain it or analyze it or check whether you are doing it correctly. Simply inhabit it, the way you inhabit your own name. If your mind wanders, and it will, you have not failed. When you notice the wandering, return, not with force, with the quietness of someone who knows where home is, and then let sleep take you from inside the scene, not into it, from inside it. That distinction is the entire teaching, the waiting you have been doing, the silence, the long season where nothing appears to change despite everything you have been giving to this. I want to say something about that directly. It is not evidence against you. It is not evidence that you are doing it wrong, or that the law does not apply to you, or that something in your consciousness is broken in a way the teaching cannot reach. The silence is not absence. It is the accumulation that precedes the release. The subconscious does not move at the speed of impatience. It moves at the speed of deep impression. Every night you fell asleep in the wrong state was simply a night you gave it the wrong instruction. It obeyed you faithfully. It reproduced what you assumed to be true about your life. Tonight, you will give it a different instruction, and it will obey that just as faithfully. I have watched this process complete itself more times than I can count, and I will tell you what I have observed. When the subconscious has received enough correct impressions, when the assumption has been held at the threshold enough nights with enough ease, with enough naturalness, the outer world rearranges itself with a speed that appears from the outside, like chance, like an unexpected turn, like something that no one could have planned. It is not chance. It is the law completing what you began in the quiet of a room at the edge of sleep when no one was watching and the world was still. Tonight, you begin again, correctly, with the understanding you did not have before you found this. And when the thing you have been waiting for appears, and it will appear. I want you to come back to this moment, to remember that you were already standing at the edge of it when you pressed play, to remember that the law was already operating in your favor, even in the silence, even in the waiting, even in the season that felt like nothing was moving. The life you have been imagining is not coming to you. You are going to it, one night at a time, and you are much closer than you know. There is one more teaching that belongs with this one, something that works at night the same way this works, but in the opposite direction. Not planting what you want, but removing what was planted incorrectly. Neville called it revision, and he considered it the most underestimated instrument in the entire teaching. Most people use it only when they are in pain. The ones who truly understand it use it every single night as a matter of law. What I will show you in the next video is why everything you do at the threshold of sleep, everything I have taught you tonight, is building on soil that must first be cleared. Without that, you are planting new seeds on top of old ones and wondering why the harvest is never quite what you imagined.